Before we get started, man, it was really hard for me to make this video. I don't know if you guys saw my Twitter account. There's some personal problems going on in my life right now. I don't want to get into it too much, but do me a favor. The only thing I'm going to promote before we start this video is my Twitch account got banned for a obscure reason about a week and a half ago, right before I was going to jump into streaming next-gen content. I have to now stream on YouTube. If you want to catch my YouTube streams, it's TheFlightMike TV. There's going to be a pinned comment with the actual profile where the live streams are going to occur. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description down below as well. I would love to see you guys there. I'd love to just chill with you guys as we're playing NBA 2K or Spider-Man or Call of Duty. But unfortunately, I have to start all over again on that channel. But if you also go to that channel, you'll see a library of old content from me when I used to do gameplay walkthroughs. So I think you guys would enjoy it. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, let me tell you one thing that I believe each and every team needs to do for a superstar that clearly is on the decline or will be on the decline eventually, or has like 2 to 3 years left of its prime, or hopefully 4 to 5 years left of his prime, depending on how long the player could extend his prime. But typically when a player gets to their age 30 season or age 31 season and a team is going nowhere, it's to the team's best benefit to do right by their former franchise cornerstone and trade him to a contender. And I think the most recent example that we saw of this was Russell Westbrook on the Houston Rockets. Last year, the OKC Thunder didn't plan on trading Paul George. They were going to continue to contend. But the problem is, when you're a team that's trying to contend and you're consistently a first-round exit, and another team makes you an offer that you can't refuse, I don't know, like 5 first-round picks for one of your star players, well, you're instantly going to say, hey, let's punt on this team and let's launch a full-scale rebuild, because we're going to be really freaking good in a couple of years with all of the assets that we compiled as a result of launching our rebuild right now. And as a result, the OKC Thunder said, hey, we have a bunch of first-round draft picks now, but by the time those first-round draft picks start to hit us and we're able to successfully rebuild our team, well, Russell Westbrook's going to be a dinosaur by then. So they worked with Russell Westbrook on choosing a team for him to be traded to in order to potentially contend for a championship. Russell Westbrook said, hey, I want to go to Houston, although it didn't make much sense, and we all criticized it at the time because he wasn't a really good schematic fit. He decided to go to Houston, and the Thunder did a solid by him by trading him to Houston. If you want to go even back further, about 12 years ago, Kevin Garnett literally had like 2 years left of his prime, if that even, and the Minnesota Timberwolves traded him for an obscene amount of assets back then, a trade package surrounded around Al Jefferson at the time, and Kevin Garnett was able to successfully acquire his championship that was eluding him during his MVP years with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Well, the Rockets are in a very similar situation now. You see, they claim that they're trying to contend with what they're saying. It's what Tillman Fertitta is saying, but based off of their actions, they're not trying to contend. When you get rid of Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni doesn't return to your team, well, it just seems like you're no longer trying to contend. And to add further insult to injury, when you hire a rookie head coach, rookie head coaches don't typically contend for championships. The last rookie head coach to win a championship was Tyronn Lue, and I guess he is the exception to the rule. You don't see a lot of this happening in the NBA. I guess you could also make a case for Steve Kerr, but I feel like that is also a different exception. With that being said, I proposed multiple times that even though there's Russell Westbrook rumors going on, the Houston Rockets need to trade James Harden. And it's not because James Harden demands to be traded. It's because the return they would get for James Harden right now is worth significantly more than what he could contribute to the team this year and 2 years down the line and 3 years down the line. They've run it back with James Harden multiple times, and as phenomenal of a talent as he is, they just weren't able to win a championship with him, as remarkable as the talent that James Harden is. So we have this rumor that came out, and I stayed away from this rumor because at first the rumor was a little sketchy. I didn't really trust the sources from the rumors, and frankly, I've been reading some of your comments, so I've been a little bit more selective about the rumors I bring forward to you guys. You see, Mike Mafia, I got your back. So I'm just minding my own business. Today I was dealing with some personal stuff. I was out and about handling, so I don't want to get into it, but I was handling some stuff, and bam, I get a tweet from Adrian Wojnarowski. The tweet from Woj says, ESPN sources with Ramona Shelburne and Zach Lowe NBA state that as Houston's James Harden considers his future with the franchise, one possible trade destination is rising to the top of his list: Brooklyn. The idea of reuniting with Kevin Durant and joining Kyrie Irving is resonating with Harden. Now, I think this is really cool in the sense that it's kind of adorable to think that Harden went from playing with one of his old OKC teammates in Russell Westbrook, and he's moving on to potentially play with another one of his OKC teammates in Kevin Durant. And now it's a different scenario. This is now when both Kevin Durant and James Harden have won MVPs. They've established themselves as very incredible players for separate franchises. It's nice to see this story come full circle. I think it's one of the most fascinating stories that we've ever heard in the past decade. The OKC Thunder Big Three that never ended up happening because, Clay Bennett is a cheapskate that didn't want to pay James Harden. Now, that's not all Adrian Wojnarowski said, because he also came out and said that the Rockets continue to tell teams that they plan to run it back with Harden this season. So far, there have been no trade discussions between the Rockets and Nets. So if you want the best way for me to explain this to you, I don't think James Harden's demanding a trade. I think he is requesting a trade. He's saying, hey, if you trade me and you want to do right by me, trade me to Brooklyn. As for the trade that's going to occur, there is no way, shape, or form that I could form a trade here that's tangible enough or logical enough for me to imagine a trade that would make sense in return for James Harden. What I'm saying is it's really hard because James Harden was one of the most productive players this past year, and hell, even the past 3 years. So saying that, yeah, the Rockets are going to trade James Harden for a package surrounding Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and Jarrett Allen just wouldn't excite me. Doesn't even sound very believable. I don't think it would excite you either. The only way such a trade will occur is the Brooklyn Nets will need to offer up an obscene amount of draft capital in return to the Houston Rockets. Like, they need to give back a package that says, hey, in about 3 years from now, we're going to be absolutely atrocious, and you guys are going to have a lot of assets to work with. Very similar to the trade we made almost a decade ago when we traded for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Jason Terry and pretty much set up the Boston Celtics so they could rebuild as they're still playing in the NBA playoffs. So, do I think this trade could happen? I feel like it should, in the sense that if you wait too long, you're probably going to lose James Harden for nothing, or you're probably going to trade him for nothing, and you're probably not going to win a championship with him with the current roster makeup that I see. I don't see anyone really trying to come to Houston to play with them, and I really feel like if you trade Russell Westbrook and James Harden the same way the OKC Thunder traded Russell Westbrook and Paul George last year, you could really set yourself up in the future. And I don't think that's an opportunity that you really want to miss, because if you do this successfully as the general manager of the Houston Rockets, you are going to have job security for the next decade or two. So if I am the brand new general manager of the Houston Rockets, I'm going to hit up the Brooklyn Nets and try to make this trade happen. They have young assets, they have young players, they have a first-round draft pick in each and every draft for the next couple of years, so they should definitely package a couple of these draft picks in order to try to trade it to the Houston Rockets. Now, Rockets fans, let me know in the comment section down below, what trade do you think would make sense in order to trade James Harden? Obviously, there's no way you could get an equal return for James Harden right now. You're not going to get a star player that's nearly as good as him right now. But what you could do is get a bunch of assets to set you up in the future. Furthermore, if James Harden gets traded to the Brooklyn Nets, does that make them a championship contender? Should the Nets even try to do this? Because they haven't even seen what Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving could do. Do you think James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving as a big three would be way better and way more difficult to compete against than just Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving with the depth that the Brooklyn Nets have, with Jarrett Allen, with Karis LeVert, with Spencer Dinwiddie coming off the bench. That's another thing that you have to bear in mind before you try to pull the trigger on this trade. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Aside from that, I'm your boy, TheFlightMike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.